But that's how you know this is not made or scripted by AI. Merriam-Webster, you have my heart forever. Science can tell you how, humanities tell you why. Wow, this did get really deep. The arts are underfunded. What a revelation. Is this the whole Pope thing? I am so torn on this question because, like, on the one hand, the man used cocaine. Like, he does not necessarily think through the consequences of things. And he's also a man who, like, very much uses whatever is at his disposal to get results, get answers, and get justice in some way. But on the other hand, he's a smart man. He's a very smart man. This really just leads me to the question of what would Sherlock Holmes think about the climate crisis? And as a man of science, I think we very much know the answer there. I feel like he would actually kind of come out in the modern world as kind of being like a Hank Green, maybe a bit more like cranky, but I definitely feel like he would just be on the internet yapping. But I definitely think he would find a way. I mean, Sherlock Holmes has always been a performer. You read the original stories and that man like sets Watson up to be his audience. There's so many times you're like, Holmes, you didn't need to do that. Like, you didn't need to go to those extent. Like, and it's like, no, he's a drama queen. He likes to put on a show. He is an entertainer. I mean, all the time he takes on disguises. Watson literally is always like, the stage lost a fine actor when you decided to become a detective, Holmes, which I just love. I just love that image. Also, the whole fact that like Sherlock Holmes, as we know him today, really exists because of actors is extra funny. And then this is such a niche, nobody's going to care about this, but in the Mary Russell series, which opens with The Beekeeper's Apprentice, there's a story called Oh Palestine. A lot to unpack there now and always, honestly, but and in it, Holmes wears a disguise at one point, and his disguise is William Gillette, and I was like, Laurie, that's the author. Laurie, you can't just like throw in these references for Sherlockians that we'd only get. But then 2 seconds later, Mary was like, Holmes, isn't William Gillette the name of an actor who portrays you in America? And he's like, yeah. So I'm stealing his name this time. Again, no one's going to get that context. But that's how you know this is not made or scripted by AI. In this endless echoing abyss that is the internet and these algorithms and just oh God, whatever online life is. This is my small little call to ask you to please not use AI. Now, first of all, the fact that we have to, like, those of us who are not pro AI, the fact that we have to defend ourselves, so you have to be like at the forefront of I mean, the Pope is on our side. Which, I mean, to be fair, throughout history, there's a lot of times you would not want to say you were on the Pope's side. I mean, you want to be on the Pope's good side, but I would not join the Crusades. Again, the whole Palestine, lots to unpack there. But I'm just consistently left with the question, do people find thought so difficult? At its root, and this is just fact, at its root, AI is destructive. It is theft and it is destructive. Using AI like on the regular, I saw, I think it was Time Magazine shared a fact, and maybe I'll throw the direct statistic up here in my editing. I'm a great editor for myself. I fact check myself as much as I can. Just using AI once like destroys your like brain health considerably. And that's extra interesting because a few years ago, one of the things I kept thinking about and sharing was that every time you use Google to like answer a question, so like what's the state capital of Oklahoma, your brain is more likely to remember how you searched for the information than the information itself. So now imagine you don't even have to search for the information. What is there for your brain to comprehend or remember? I don't know if those things intertwine whatsoever, but it's very clear very quickly that AI is destructive to brain health. I genuinely think we will see 20-somethings with dementia in the next 5 years even. But it's also incredibly destructive to the environment. And I don't understand how people don't feel guilty about this. Like, yes, I always see the argument, yes, okay. Should you feel guilty about not recycling a plastic water bottle when Jeff Bezos is taking his, jet or the Kardashians take their jets like from one end to LA to the other just to avoid LA traffic? Like, their carbon footprint is nowhere near ours. And yes, that's a huge, huge problem. But also, I feel so guilty not recycling my water bottle. I sit there and I think, listen, Greta Thunberg, apologies if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but Greta sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. I can hold on to this plastic water bottle until I find a proper receptacle to recycle it in. And so I people who use AI like on the daily and constantly and for things they do not need to use it for, I am just, how do you not feel immense guilt? Do you just not know? Like, do you just not know? Because if you haven't done the research into it, please take 5 minutes. Ask AI. I bet AI will tell you how destructive AI is because that's just the way it is. The data centers are literally sucking the life out of the communities they are in. And I don't even want to like phrase it like that. I want to say out of the communities they invade, because that's what they're doing. You can look it up online. I see it all the time of people's like houses being repossessed so that they can build a giant data center. It's not repossessed. That's not the correct term. It's like, it's the thing. I'll put it up here. It's the thing where they're like eminent domain. I remembered it. Oh my God. See? And you see how like joyful it makes you when you remember it for yourself? There was some movie, I want to say it was with Ben Stiller and I want to say Adam Driver, but I might be making that up. When I like an actor, I will deep dive and watch all of their movies. But anyways, there's some movie. I know it's Ben. Do I know it's Ben Stiller? I don't know. But it's like an older couple and a younger couple. And they're like getting to know each other and hanging out and becoming friends. At one point, they say, oh, who was in that movie or whatever? And one of the older couple was like, oh, I'll just look it up online. And the younger was like, no. We'll feel way better when we remember it ourselves. And then they did later. And it was like really exciting. And I remember that all the time now too, where I'm like, oh, I'll look this up. And I'm like, no, I'll feel better when it just like hits me in the middle of the night. And I'll be like, yeah, that's what it was. And it's like a joy. It's like a human joy. I don't want to take that away from myself when I, don't have to. I don't remember how I got here. Which again, great proof that AI is not scripting this. Oh, so if you haven't done research into AI data centers sucking the life out of the communities they invade, one recent study, and this is the other thing, is that the data centers and the companies behind them aren't giving you the full picture. So a lot of people say, oh, they use a teaspoon of water for every question that they get. And that might be true. Hank Green has a great video about this, actually. It might be true that one question for AI takes a teaspoon of water, which doesn't seem like much. But when you add that to like 1 million people a day asking AI a question, and then what you don't realize is that when you ask AI one question, it might be asking itself 45 other questions to get you the answer. And so that 1 teaspoon you think you're using is actually like 6 gallons of water. I love the anti-AI memes too. If you haven't seen these, you're missing out. I saw one where it was like, I think it was actually a teacher's, might have even been someone I know personally, but it was like a protest and they were a teacher and they were like, give me a gallon of water and I'll write your paper for you. So there was a recent unbiased study, or not, there's always biases, but like it was by a couple of scientists, and this was a major data center that they were looking at. But this major data center, they said it had, minus the radiation, it was going to have the environmental impact of 2 nuclear bombs. Just turn everything into a wasteland. Like it was, they estimated that it would increase the temperature of like the surrounding at least 5 miles by 7 degrees every night. Honestly, it's kind of these moments that I'm like, is this why I'm becoming more interested in Professor Moriarty? Is it because I'm understanding the motives of a villain? Because I could turn violent if someone raised the temperature in my neighborhood by 7 degrees every night so that they could ask AI where they left their car keys or something. My friend who lives in California told me people use AI to navigate the grocery store, to like help them decide what to buy, to help them find what they're looking for in what aisle, to see if it's in stock. Like, And that's the whole point too. Like, what are you even asking? What are you destroying your brain for? What are you destroying your environment for? What are you asking that is so important? And to that, I can hear, including myself, saying, listen, there are useful uses of AI. And I agree. And I promise at the end of this video, I will confess. I will confess to you what I use AI for. And I kind of hate myself for it every time. And that's the whole thing. I feel so guilty for it every time. But there are ethical uses. I admit that. I think one of the first AI systems they set up actually, I don't want to do the research for this, but I swear to God, it was some kind of system set up to detect something about croissants, some kind of pastry thing. And instead it ended up being able to detect cancer instead, which is insane. And there are amazing AIs now that can detect cancer 10 times in advance what we as humans can detect, which is awesome. It's super useful. But like doctors using AI to take their notes, I mean, just listen to your patients. Just listen to your patients. You got bad handwriting? Okay, you can use a recorder. You don't need AI to transcribe it for you. There are softwares that do that aren't AI. There have always been softwares that are that and aren't AI. But like to have AI summarize the visit with a patient horrifies me. I personally, I think this is an ethical use. Some people disagree with me, which is fine. But Pedigree recently launched an AI software that takes bad photos of dogs at a kennel or a shelter because they don't always get the best picture, because the dogs look afraid, because, you know, they're in these crowded environments, they're stressed. And so it takes those photos and turns them into, like, you know, makes the dog look more relaxed, makes them look happier. And I'm pretty sure Pedigree is using those photos in some of their advertising too. So like sharing these images of dogs, but it makes dogs look more adoptable. And for some people, that's a big help. We rescued a dog, my little Mimi, last year. And when I was, you know, looking at all these different dogs, you see some of them and their pictures just like break your heart. But especially if you're like a family and you're looking for like a kid-friendly dog or something, like that one picture can really make a difference in, you know, making that dog look like he'd be a happy addition and friendly with your kids versus like a very stressed, you know, scary dog, which they're not. But also, the same thing could be reasonably achieved by people who are good at photography volunteering their time and energy at the local animal shelter, which would also be really great for the dogs because socialization is really great for the dogs. And if you're like a student of photography and you need to build out your portfolio, why not? Also, with the amount of money Pedigree spent on that AI software and stuff. And Hank Green also has a great video on this, on how like AI is a bubble in the market and like people are buying things that don't exist and paying for them with other things that don't exist, and it's going to explode. And tell me how much you really needed AI when the market crash is worse than '08. But whatever. Could Pedigree afford to pay for some of those photographers? You know, have like a little grant for photographers for shelter pets? Just a thought. The metaphor I like to use is like using AI is like taking a lit cigarette and throwing it outside in the middle of a drought in high wind and hoping you won't start a wildfire. You might not, but you probably will. Or like time traveling to the Titanic, thinking you're going to have an amazing smooth journey all the way to New York. Or if you want like a classic crime example, like imagine you put arsenic in your soup and you think you will be the only person to survive at your dinner party. You might. And you probably can't read my glasses from here, but they say this Barbie is a writer. And I made them myself. And I made the script myself. I make it up as I go sometimes. I make these videos. I edit them myself. And so if you can't tell, I'm a creator. I like to make art. I write poetry. I write not poetry things. I wrote a whole novel that I've been trying to get published for years. It's actually titled A Study in Soulmates. I have a whole summary video about that on my vlog. I totally forgot I made that. I'm in the studying thing. It's my thing. I didn't even intend for that title. Like, this is one of the beautiful magical things in your brain that like another person would be like, AI, what's a good title for my book? No, my brain, I was like saving the document offhandedly, like on my computer. And I was like, oh, I just got to title it. And, a lot of times you're just like, thing I'm working on, number 2. But that day, the phrase "a study in soulmates" just came to me. I was like, "That's great, brilliant, done." And it wasn't until weeks later that I like picked up a Sherlock Holmes thing, and I went, "Oh my god, I'm inspired by A Study in Scarlet," and I didn't even know. Like, my brain made that connection for me. I wasn't even conscious of it. It was amazing. And so, as a creator, and the other crazy thing is, there's a lot of creators or like people who work with creators and artists I've met who also don't care about this. Again, where is your guilt? Is it because I'm Catholic? I was raised Catholic? Is this the whole Pope thing? But almost every AI system was trained on stolen goods, stolen artwork, stolen music, stolen books. Like, they just stole everything. They knew what they were doing was illegal. Those who were building the software and said, yeah, we're going to steal every book ever written and just put it in here and have that train our AI. They knew that was illegal. And they knew they could get away with it because they knew there were, they were kind of predating the law there, and they'd have to go through a really lengthy court thing. And in the United States, nobody bothers to do that because we have terrible copyright. I mean, we have very intense copyright laws, which is even more insane. Sherlock Holmes is deeply involved in copyright law. Did you know that? I could make a whole video on that. It's fascinating. It's a whole thing. But anyways, my point is, there are authors who are suing. There are artists who are suing. But a lot of creators are underfunded. The arts are underfunded. What a revelation. And so everything that AI spews out, especially if you are using it to create something, if you're using it to edit a photo, if you're using it to make an artwork or like be like, show me a picture of like what this would look like, it is doing so on the backbone of theft. And for those of us who put blood, sweat, and tears and our souls, A Study in Soulmates is as much about me and my soul as it is about the plot and the story. There is so much of me in what I write. You can't separate the two. You can't pull me out of my artwork. And so the idea that someone could steal a piece of me and turn it into, and it's crap. Like, there's a reason slop was the word of the year last year. Merriam-Webster, you have my heart forever. It's not as good as the original. It's not as good as real art made by real people. AI, it doesn't matter what AI can do. The fact that it has no experiences. AI has no experiences. It has no feelings. It has no guilt. It has no grief. It is not going to create anything in the same way that a human being could do so. And I don't care about your silly little memes and videos. I don't. I want them made by real people. I want them to be messy and bad sometimes, but I want them to be real. One side note about copyright and all these things. Some creator of an AI system or something was like, well, when you put something out there, it really doesn't belong to you anymore, which, again, the U.S. has deep copyright laws. Talk about the public domain. Sherlock Holmes is literally the case for this, guys. We'll have to talk about it some other time. He's like, oh, well, it just belongs to everyone. Your art belongs to those who consume it. Your creations belong to those who consume it. And the author he was trying to argue with literally looks at him and goes, okay, well then your AI creation, your program of AI also belongs to me. Where's my money? Like, I get a cut of this. And the guy just was like, probably had to turn to AI to help him come up with an argument against that. And again, if all this isn't enough, it's robbing all of us as our power as creators. I wrote this whole essay for a fellowship that I did not get, but it was about how, like, gods in all mythologies, oh my God, we're back to the Pope. Gods create. They create. They mold things out of clay. They think things. They magic. They use lightning. They use all the water. They destroy. And even as they do all those things, they create things. They create life. They create worlds. And so to me, is not creating of new things, the closest we as humans can come to the divine. I bet you didn't expect this to get this deeply theological, did you? I just think that creating in any way, shape, or form, writing, drawing, a collage. I've been doing a lot of collage lately. I love it. Poetry, composing, singing, dancing, all these things. I just think they are the most sacred part of being human. I feel like I have been making this argument long before AI was even a thing. Like, I remember so much in high school, like, everyone was going into STEM at the time, like science, technologies, math, and I was going into the humanities. I was going to English. And everyone was like, what are you going to do with that? And I remember my English and history teacher going, science can tell you how, humanities tell you why. You come to a funeral. They don't recite the chemical equation for turning flesh into ash at a funeral. You read poetry. In the pandemic, when everybody was isolated and alone, what did we start doing? People were making bread. They were doing art. They were coloring. They were like, when we're at our lowest and our darkest, we create. We turn to art. We turn to things to express things that we can't ourselves. And so you think you can train a robot to express things that language can't grasp? And honestly, like Sherlock Holmes, he quotes a lot of Shakespeare. He quotes a lot of things. You know, he talks about art in the blood because he has like artists in his lineage, and he plays the violin and he composes sometimes. I find it really hard to believe that man would use a technology, especially to create anything, and especially to even organize his thoughts, you know, to say, here are the pieces of evidence, AI, who did the murder. There's an amazing show I've been watching lately. If you haven't seen it, it's on BritBox. It's called Death Valley. And it's a very psychological detective show, but the detectives, one of them is an actor. And so he's approaching all of these people, like thinking about them from a deeply, like from who they are as a character. And like what's in line with their character and what would they do and why would they do it. But that alone isn't going to solve the case. He also needs the evidence. He also needs this. And to me, that's just such a demonstration of how Holmes works in such a unique way. He takes evidence. He takes things he knows about human beings. He takes things that, you know, tend to happen, that repeat. All of these experiences and things that he knows and he's seen, and chemical formulas and all these things. And it's only because he can hold all of those things in a particular order at a certain time that he can find the answer. And it's the same way with artists. There's a great book called Steal Like an Artist. And it talks about that like whatever you're producing, only you could produce it. I am the only person who is going to tie Sherlock Holmes and DuckTales and you know, philosophical treatise on soulmates and produce whatever the heck that produces. Like, no one else is going to have that exact combination of things, plus my life experiences and my feelings and my experiences with grief and life and joy in the same way. No one else can. And no robot, no technology can. And even if it can, I don't want it to. Why would I want to give away the beautiful, messy, painful experience that is living and creating? Wow, this did get really deep. I swear in my script, I even talk about like platypuses, because I was comparing how like gods can sometimes create things that are messy and incomplete, like platypuses. Like they glow under a UV light. Also, they lay eggs. Like, what even is a platypus? If you'd like to discuss things in the terms of a singular god, I think God just like it kept creating things, and then when he'd be like, that one didn't come out too great, and just sent it to Australia. Which was like, we'll tuck those away. So there's so many things down there that make no sense. And again, this is just my little quiet corner of the internet. And all I'm asking is the next time you go to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, ask yourself if asking this one question is worth a wildfire. Ask yourself if one of your friends might have the answer. I saw this great poem. I totally forget it, but I saw it in passing, and it was like, only use AI. Like, don't call your friend who's a chef and ask her what you should make for dinner with these ingredients. Like, don't call your friend. Don't like post on the internet and ask like a philosophical question. Ask AI instead. I just want people to not lose the joy of living and the humor of living and the grief of living and just the full human experience. You deserve that. That's what you deserve. It's what we all deserve. Your ability to create and try and learn and mess up is a gift. And I don't understand how you could ever just hand it over to a technology. It's a divine gift that people are just giving away. And so on that note, I will confess, this is my confession. Should have like a Bible. This is my confession. I do use AI for one thing. I have used AI for one thing. Now, first of all, most of us use AI unwittingly. It appears in your Google searches now. There is a workaround that if you're interested, all you have to do is put like a minus sign, like the little hyphen and the letters AI. So you just search like say Taylor Swift minus AI, and it gets rid of the Gemini summary at the beginning, which is super useful. But I often forget to do that. So apologies to the environment for those moments that I forget and don't bother. And I'm so sorry. But also, and this was just last night, I found one of the most perfect uses, not even perfect use. I've been looking for something to do this for so long, and I'm really mad that it's AI that can do it for me. And what that is answer very specific questions about the books that I own without spoiling them. I will edit it in here. I will show you what my unread stacks of books. They're all sitting there. They're staring at me right now. I was moving them around last night, and so they're all just like on the floor too. So there's a lot of them. They're everywhere. There's just so many books I haven't read that I own that are sitting right in front of me. It's a lot. And because I have so many, and even if I had 5, like there are things about a book that like is hard to know without like reading the book or starting the book, which is why I end up with so many like false starts. Like I read a chapter and then it sits there for like half the year, because I'm a mood reader, but I'm like a setting-based mood reader. I want to read fall books in the fall. I could read them at other times, and sometimes I do, but they are more fun to read about the leaves changing while the leaves are changing. And sometimes I just want to read, like, I want to read a book set in York, England. I loved York. This is my York mug from Emma Bridgewater. It's beautiful. I love it. It reminds me of the city of York, which is an awesome place and cool and medieval. And I just love the vibes. And actually, one of the reasons why I want to read one of the book there is because I already read some books set there, and they were so good, and they so immersed me in just the atmosphere of York that I'm like, I want to go back. Let's do it again. And it can be really difficult to say, I want books set in a certain place. There are a lot of Reddit pages that provide somewhat good answers, but they don't always. And when they do, sometimes like they'll be really old, so they don't like have the most recent books, or like they won't mention, like it'll be really, I don't know. It's just they're unsatisfying and they're not giving me the answers I want. Another example, if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan and you've never heard of the Lord Peter Wimsey series, what are you doing? They're all behind me here, and I am reading this series as out of order as humanly possible, not on purpose. I just started doing it that way by accident, and then I was like, might as well continue. And one summer, I read Have His Carcass. And it was so good. A lot of people say it's not their favorite. It's my favorite. I loved it. I loved the setting, which is a summer at the beach, in a beach town. And the mystery got me so good. Dorothy L. Sayers is like the queen of red herrings, which she even has a book. One of the books is titled like 5 Red Herrings, but she is so good. There's even like another scene in the final book, Busman's Honeymoon. We're going to have a long chat about Lord Peter Wimsey soon. Oh, we're going to have a long chat. And so I've been looking for one of them. Like I've been like, are there any others that are set in the summer? It's summer. I want to read another one. And AI was like, oh yeah, babe, I can tell you when all the books are set. No problem. I'll give you the year, I'll give you the town or the countryside, and I'll tell you what time of year. So I'm about to read Murder Must Advertise, which a lot of people say is one of their favorites. And it's set during London during a like way too hot summer. So I'm very excited. I discovered a bunch of other books that I had were also set in the summer, and some that I were about to read, they were set in like the fall or the winter. I'm like, no, we can save those. And the way AI does this, obviously, is that they search through the hundreds of Google searches that come up. And again, it's doing that thing where like, how many questions is it asking to find my answer? But it searches through the Reddit pages. It searches through like blog reviews, Goodreads reviews, and it's like pulls it together and says, okay, the word summer came up 47 times when people were talking about Murder Must Advertise. Must be set in the summer. And so like, could I do that myself? Yes. Have I tried to do that myself? Yes. Has it worked well? No. Do I also fact check AI? That's another thing we should do. AI does present you its sources, and so you can click on there and say, hello, yes, I'd like to learn more. Please always fact check. Like, the temptation is so there. I so understand. Like, I know I could just upload my giant spreadsheet of all the books I have sitting here unread. And I could say, tell me what time of year these books are set, and it would. And then I would have all the answers forever. But how many wildfires am I starting from that? Guys, I am going to conclude this video by telling you, because I've gotten a lot of new followers recently because of my Sherlock videos, my goal is to have at least one Sherlock video and one non-Sherlock video a month. Fingers crossed. Everyone has given me lots of really good ideas for Sherlock videos. I'm giving myself good ideas. We need a Peter Wimsey. If you don't know Lord Peter Wimsey, I am doing you a disservice. Like, the world is doing you a disservice, but I am doing you a disservice. So that might be next on the agenda. But also, I might need to make a whole nother review video about the new Enola Holmes movie. Something else might come up. They've already started filming Young Sherlock season 2, and it's in Italy, which I have mixed feelings about. I like Sherlock Holmes in London. To the point where, like, when I'm reading books set in Victorian London, I just feel at home. I would not want to go there. I like the right to vote and indoor plumbing, but I just feel so comfortable in the books, in the setting, as much as when I read a book set in a place that I've actually been. You're like, yes, I know those streets. I know the vibe. I know what's like. Anyways, I'm sure I'll get either absolutely zero engagement on this video or a lot of comments. So, looking forward to it. See you next time.